Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to have a look at another devblog for the upcoming update, which is probably going to be coming out in September. This is the SOMUA SM. It's going to be a new heavy tank premium for the French at rank 4, and it's going to be pretty similar to most of the medium tanks that we see at that tier. One thing to also mention is I will be changing the video titles because it seems like there was maybe a little bit of a leak or a little bit of a mishap. If you actually had a look earlier on the mobile version of this, it actually said that the updates will be 1.101. So since, I've been told many times by Gaijin they don't use numbers anymore, even though they do use numbers, they just don't want to, well, they basically want to stay away from that awful number 2 for some reason. They seem to be very scared of it. What we're going to do going forward is to call these videos update 1.101 devblogs until something changes, maybe a dev server or something like that. Well, anyway, let's get back into the SOMUA. Let's talk about its history. Where does this machine come from? Well, basically, in 1946, when AMX were developing their design of the AMX50, SOMUA was also instructed to come up with a competing design that would act as an alternative to the machine that we see in-game. Both companies were given the same technical requirements by the French army, so guess what? The machines ended up very, very similar. And also there is talk that the machines themselves did take or used the King Tiger as kind of a basis for these designs, even though they ended up very different. And both designs, funny enough, with the same specifications and technical requirements, turned out to be very, very similar. The SOMUA's design was only really different because it had an increased weight to it, and this was because of the heavier protection that it had on the machine, and also it had a more simple running gear that you can see in the video here. The SOMUA SM also was presented for the first time to army officials in October of 1951. But it didn't have an engine, so it was pretty much just a stationary beast, and at the same time, the AMX50 already had a bunch of prototypes out and had been tested, and by 1953, the SOMUA had completed the construction of its SM tank, and then conducted trials on it just to show its mobility and its maneuverability, but during testing, there were several design issues that were revealed with the machine, and also the AMX50 had been upgunned with the 120mm gun already about. So the decision was made to cancel the SOMUA SM because of the fact that what was the point? Like, the AMX50 had already been, not really put into service, but had already been chosen. So what would be the point of having a very similar machine that was behind it by about 2 years of development? So the SOMUA SM never left the prototype stage, and the only constructed vehicle that they produced was scrapped shortly after the project's cancellation. So this is obviously in-game a wonderful thing that we have in War Thunder, where we are able to actually produce vehicles which, didn't really see the light of day when it came to, real life. Stuff which may have been useful on the battlefield, but never made it there for either technical reasons or monetary reasons or whatever it is. And the SOMUA is going to be one of those vehicles. So it's going to be, as I said, a new premium for the French rank 4. I'm guessing the Dauphiné or the Dauphine didn't sell as well, or the 5.7 lineup isn't as strong as stuff like the 7.3 and 7.7 lineup of the French. And also a lot of people have been clamoring for some kind of option for rank 4 for France, which is kind of a cheap alternative to the other auto-loading vehicles. And maybe this is it, because normally premium vehicles are generally a little bit cheaper than their tech tree counterparts. At the same time, this is looking like a really nice machine to be able to run with all of these. It does have, as we talked about, the slightly more heavily armored platform, but the main thing that this has is the 100mm gun that you see already in the tech tree. If you haven't used this 100mm gun before, it is an incredibly impressive gun. It has great penetration on it, and the other thing as well is it has 4-second reload. That is because this machine has an autoloader, and there's a reason why the Lorraine 40T kept going up in BR and also kept going up in repair cost. It's basically because of the gun and also the maneuverability part of the machine, where the SOMUA has access to the gun part of the machine and the reload part of the machine. It will struggle with the mobility part, but it still should be completely fine going around the battlefield just smashing people. The other thing is, even though this machine has an oscillating turret, and if you've ever used it on stuff like the AMX-13, it can be a little bit, bouncy and rickety because it doesn't have a stabilizer. The turret, which is very similar, if not the same as the AMX-51, it isn't as bouncy. It's actually quite a stable gun that you can run around and just shoot people with, and because of the fact you have so much penetration, you're going to be an absolute annihilator when it comes to a lot of heavy tanks and stuff like that. It's just another one of these auto-loading vehicles that can be added to the French lineup, which is just going to be an absolute beast. The main differences, though, that we obviously mentioned before, are the fact that this machine has an engine which is 1,000 horsepower. It's the same engine that you find on the AMX-50, but this machine has increased in mass to 60 tons. And because of this, that means its power to weight ratio is 16.6 horsepower per ton, and it can go around about 40 kilometers an hour top speed. So this is going to be a lot slower than the other French rank 4 mediums. And the thing is, this actually makes a big difference. The reason why stuff like the Lorraine is so good, the AMX M4, the AMX 50, is because you can run around like a crazy mouse, and you can be able to just pop people. It's a really good secondary spawn tank, because once you secondary spawn in and you just annihilate everything around you, it just becomes a way that you can carry the game really hard. And it also means if the enemy screws up a shot on you, it normally means that you have 2 or 3 shots at it with the gun because of the auto-loading mechanism. It's a very, very powerful thing, and the fact that, this thing loses a little bit of its mobility and gains a little bit of armor, I don't actually think helps it at all, really. I think it would be much better to have a platform, as I said, like the Lorraine 40T, which is a little bit lighter armored, which you can just run around with. The extra armor is nothing to laugh about, though. On the upper glacis, it has 150 millimeters of armor, and as you can see here, it's pretty steeply angled. So this might actually bounce a lot of shots, which wouldn't have before. The main problem with it, though, is you just shoot the turret, because I don't think they've actually up-armored the turret at all. So you just shoot... You just make sure that you don't shoot where the 2 areas of the turret overlap, and you should go through it straight away. Another thing about these French tanks is it's really hard to one-shot them because of the way that all of the crew is set up, unless you are penning easily with APC-BC with HE filler. So yeah, a lot of these tanks can survive a hit, especially if you shoot either center mass or just into the turret. So it'll get a little bit of higher survivability because of that stuff as well. I don't know why, if you are looking to, play the French tech tree, or if you're looking to try and grind out France, why you wouldn't pick a machine like this up, because it gives you a really nice look, at the French tech tree at rank 4, and it also gives you just a really powerful platform with the 100mm. This is going to be a great choice for a premium, and to be honest, I'm happy to see it, because I don't think, like, you know how I've talked about before, how there is a bit of an issue in War Thunder where there are certain machines where when they get added to the game, it feels like they're a little bit more powerful than their tech tree counterparts. Well, this is, in effect, the perfect premium to be kind of the opposite, where this machine, it gives you something else, it gives you the extra armor, but it loses the bit of mobility, and technically, I would personally see it as worse as the tech tree, as a little bit worse than the tech tree counterparts, but still incredibly good. I think this type of premium is definitely the way to go when it comes to the game, just because it isn't really selling power. Instead, what it is it's selling a different experience to which is similar to the tech tree vehicles to its buyers. Now, as you can see, you do get a premium account for 7 days. It's $40 US, and you get 1000 G as well. You get the Savant Boxer that you can see there, and also the Savant Master title, which is pretty cool. 1000 GE and premium account for 7 days accounts to around about $10, so you'll be paying $29.99 for this vehicle. So around about $30 if you take off everything else. And if you're a person looking to grind through the French tree to get up to those high tiers, maybe they'll be adding another high tier French tank, and so that would be kind of nice. But I do have to say that my experiences when it comes to the French tech tree are very much all over the place. So rank 1 is terrible. It's absolutely awful to play rank 1. It really is. Rank 2, they've bolstered with the addition of stuff like the Crusader, with the addition of stuff like the M3A3, so that's kind of nice. Rank 3 struggles when it comes to making lineups out of it. Rank 4 is probably the best rank in the game, like when we do a comparison. Rank 5 is pretty fun. It offers you different experiences compared to the rest of the game, you know, with thermals but no stabilizers and APFS DS running around. Then obviously the light tanks, which are really fun to play. And then rank 6 and 7 are a little bit underwhelming, but you can see that there is going to be room for improvement when it comes to those ranks. You know, they're going to add more vehicles. So I really think this is actually a solid pickup, especially if you're a person who is very much interested in the French tech tree. This is the first premium that we see of the update, and it's looking pretty nice. If you need any stats on the gun, just check the 100mm that's on stuff like the Lorraine, the AMX50. Now you can see it in game already, and you can see the stats are bonkers on it. And I suppose you won't be able to see the armor, but you'll get a general feel of the vehicle if you start playing those. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.